Hi, this is AP Computer Science A with Master Hun. This is episode 0, season 0. Okay, today we're going to talk about the for loop in Java. Iteration or looping, while loop, for loop, nested loops will be, you can expect on the AP exam to have a weighting of about 20% of the exam. So it's something you do need to know. Again, so 20% there's a 20% weighting in the exam, and it's all lumped up in what we call iteration, or you could think of it as looping. So that would include the while loop, the for loop, developing algorithms using strings, nested iteration, and what is also called informal code analysis. So, what do we have to know about the for loop? We have to know that the for loop will have a header, and the header will consist of 3 components: the initialization, the Boolean expression, and the increment. Keep in mind the increment can also be a decrement. It does not actually have to be an increment, could actually be a decrement also. And then of course there'll be a body, a block of code that will be the body of the loop. So there'll be a header and then there'll be a body. So if I've put some code into Java Tutor. If you go to pythontutor.com, there is a Java Tutor. It's kind of a misnomer. I wouldn't really call it a tutor. They call it a tutor. The creator called it the tutor, but I would call it a debugger. So we see here that we have a simple test class, and there's only one method, a public method. And the public method, all it does is basically it's a loop. So again, this is the for loop. This is the for loop header. We have right here, we have the initialization. We have the Boolean expression. So this will stop the loop at some point when essentially in this example, when the index, I for index, I becomes 5 or greater 5 or greater than 5, then this loop stops. And then here we have the increment. So it'll increment by 1. Every loop it'll increase the index will increase by 1. Okay, the body of the loop is very simple. It's an if statement. So if num plus I, the index, okay, the sum is mod, if you num plus I mod 2, whatever the sum of this mod 2 modulus is equal to 0, which basically means it's even. Whatever this sum, every time this sum is even, then we will add 4, the value 4, the integer 4, to num. So you could say num is an accumulator essentially. And then once it's done, finished looping, then we return the total sum, which will save in num. Oh, and again, if you haven't learned about classes and objects yet, Java is an object-oriented programming language. Java is an object-oriented programming language, so we have to create a class. We need to have a class, and then we have to create an object to do anything. So the name of this class is test class. So I have to have this line, test class, test, assignment operator, new, test class. So I need this line to create the test object, an instance of the test class. And after I do that, then I can call this public method, my method. I'm passing it the value 13, and I have it inside of a system.out.println so I can see what the result is. And we'll step through it right now. Okay, so we're here. So we have to create this test object. Okay, so we can see here that we've created this test object. We've created a test object. I mean the test class, an object named test, which is an instance of this test class. Okay, and then we're back up here. Okay, now we're inside the for loop. So we passing num is the value that we're passing here. So num is 13. Okay. So we need to, so we're at this point right here at the header of the for loop header. Okay, so we just finished that. We just executed this header. So I is initialized to 2. And then we initialize I or the index to 2. Now we're at the if statement. So we're going to check to see if num plus I, the sum, is evenly divisible by 2. Num plus I is this sum, mod 2 equal to 0, which is another way. So in English that would be, is this sum an even number? If it's an even number, then we're going to add the value 4. We're going to add the value 4 to num. So num is an accumulator essentially. Okay, I'm going forward again. So num, which was 13 plus 2, so that's 15. So that's not even, so we didn't add anything. So we go back to the for loop header. We're going to check, and then we're going to increment I to the next number, which will be 3. Okay, we saw that. So I is now 3. Now we're going to check num, which is 13. 13 plus 3, is that an even number? 16. 16 mod 2 is equal to 0 because there's no remainder. It's an even number. So we're going to add, so then we're going to execute this and then add 4 to num. Okay, and you see that? So now num is not 13 anymore. Now it's 17. Okay, now it's 17. And then we go back to the header. And then are we checking, is I still less than 5? Okay. Because we had incremented I to, let me just go back. So I was 4, but once we go back to the header, then we'll see that we increment I to 5. So 5 is not less than 5. 5 is equal to 5 actually, not less than 5. So then the loop stops at this point. So I was 4, it stops at 4. It doesn't go to the next. If I is 5, then the loop stops. So that's what happened. The loop stopped. And now you can see we're going to return what's the value in num, which is 17. And that's going to be returned by this public my method. Okay, we can see right here we're returning 17. That's the return value. And because I put this system.out.println call in, so now we have an output, which the output is 17. And we're done. We're finished. The program has ended. Okay, again to give you a quick review. Again, on the AP exam, you can expect that iteration, not only for loops, but for loops, while loops, analysis of iteration, nested loops will have a weight of about 20% on the AP exam. So it's important to understand how to not only code a for loop, but you also will need to know how to trace through a for loop. And then also be expected you may actually see a nested for loop. So it may be just a for loop like this with a for loop header and a body, but just be aware you may also be expected to trace through or code a for loop within a for loop. So just be aware of that. Okay, thank you for viewing my first episode, episode 0. Episode 0, oops, episode 0 of episode 0, season 0 of AP Computer Science A with Master Hun. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you in the next episode.